It's 11:47 on a Tuesday night. You're half watching an old movie, the volume low because the kids went to bed an hour ago. The dog is asleep at your feet. Then it happens. 3 hard, fast knocks. Not a friend, not a delivery. These knocks mean business. Before you can even process the sound, your living room window flashes red and blue. You stand up slowly, heart already hammering against your ribs. Through the blinds, you see them. 2 silhouettes on your porch, one with a hand resting on a belt that holds more than just handcuffs. Another knock, louder this time. A voice, flat and commanding. "Police department, open the door." You feel your throat tighten. Your mind races through every possible reason they could be there. You haven't done anything wrong. No one in this house has. So why is your body telling you to run and hide at the same time? You look toward the hallway where your partner is now standing, eyes wide. Neither of you moves. The officer knocks again. "We need to talk to you. Just open the door." Let me stop right here and ask you something real. Has this ever happened to you? Have police ever shown up at your home unexpectedly, questioned you at your door, asked to come inside, or pressured you into talking when every instinct told you to stay quiet? I want you to think back, and when you're done reading this, I genuinely want you to share your experience in the comments. Because what I'm about to walk you through, the psychology, the legal traps, the hidden tactics, might explain something that confused or scared you for years. And by the time you finish this article, you're going to understand exactly why those knocks at 11:47 p.m. are far more dangerous than most people ever realize. I'm going to tell you how to stop police from effectively seeing through your walls. Not with X-ray vision or heat sensors, though those exist, but with something far more powerful and far more common. Your own voice, your own hesitation, your own deep, almost instinctive need to be cooperative. Because here's the uncomfortable truth most people learn only after it's too late. Police don't need a warrant to search your home if you hand them the keys yourself. And those keys aren't made of metal. They're made of words. Phrases like, "Sure, come in," or "I've got nothing to hide," or "Hold on, let me unlock the door." Every single night in this country, officers stand outside hundreds of homes they legally cannot enter. No probable cause, no warrant, no exigent circumstances. Just a door, a chain, and a resident who has every right to say nothing and open nothing. But here's what happens instead. The officer knocks. The person inside panics. They open the door out of fear, out of childhood conditioning to obey authority, out of sheer confusion. And the moment that door swings open, the officer's world expands. Suddenly, they can see past you into your living room, down your hallway, over your shoulder. They can smell what's cooking, or what's burning. They can hear the television, the argument in the other room, the muffled voice of someone trying not to be heard. They are, in that single moment, seeing through your walls. Not literally, but effectively. I want you to really sit with that image. Your front door is not just an entry point. It's a lens. And the second you open it wide enough for an officer to stand on your threshold and look past you, you have just handed them intelligence they never had 5 seconds earlier. They notice things you don't even realize they're noting. A pipe on the coffee table, a knife block in the kitchen that looks out of place, the way your kid peeks around the corner and immediately ducks back. The smell of marijuana. Even if it's legal in your state, they'll use it. The sound of someone walking upstairs who doesn't want to be seen. All of it becomes actionable. And none of it required a judge's signature. So how do you stop it? How do you build an invisible wall that no badge can cross? You start by understanding something that sounds almost too simple to be true. The default answer to a knock on your door from law enforcement should be nothing. Not no, not go away, nothing. Silence is not obstruction. Silence is not guilt. Silence is the single most powerful tool you have, and most people throw it away within the first 10 seconds of an encounter because they can't stand the awkwardness of leaving an officer standing there unanswered. Let me walk you through a real scenario, not a hypothetical. Something I've seen play out in body cam footage, in court transcripts, in the stories people tell me years later with regret thick in their voices. It's a Saturday afternoon. You're home alone. The doorbell rings, but it's not the usual ring. It's one long buzz, then another. You look through the peephole. 2 officers. One is holding a clipboard. The other is looking past your door at your neighbor's house, then back at your door. You take a breath and open it. Not all the way, just enough to talk. Can I help you? You ask, and already you've made your first mistake. Not a legal mistake necessarily, but a psychological one. You've invited conversation. You've positioned yourself as someone who answers questions instead of someone who asks them. The officer with the clipboard smiles, friendly, disarming. Hi there, sorry to bother you on a Saturday. We're just following up on a noise complaint from last night. Someone reported loud arguing and what sounded like a possible disturbance. You hear anything like that? Now your brain starts spinning. You didn't argue with anyone last night. You were asleep by 10. But you also don't want to seem unhelpful. You don't want to be the difficult neighbor. So you say, "No, I didn't hear anything. It was quiet over here." The officer nods, writes something down. Then his partner speaks for the first time. Mind if we come in and just take a quick look, just to make sure everything's okay? We had a report of a possible domestic situation, and we're required to do a welfare check when we get something like that. This is the moment. This is the exact second where everything changes. And most people, right here, will say something like, "Oh, sure, I guess. It's a mess in here, though." Or they'll step aside awkwardly. Or they'll say, "Well, I don't see why not." And in that single sentence, they have just waived their Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable search and seizure. Because the Supreme Court has made this painfully clear for decades. When you voluntarily consent to a search, no warrant is required. The officers don't need probable cause. They don't need reasonable suspicion. They don't need anything except your permission. And once you give it, anything they see in plain sight during that consent search is admissible in court. Anything they smell, anything they hear, anything they find. Here's what you should have done instead. What you can still do tonight if you ever find yourself in this situation. You look at that officer and you say, calmly, without anger, without fear in your voice, the following. I don't consent to any searches. If you need to come inside, get a warrant. That's it. That's the wall. Those 11 words are the difference between a conversation that ends on your porch and a conversation that ends with handcuffs, evidence bags, and a court date. But here's what most people get wrong. They think saying no makes them look guilty. They think a good, innocent citizen has nothing to hide, so why not let the officers take a quick look? That kind of thinking has destroyed more lives than any actual crime ever could. Because here's the part nobody tells you. Police officers are trained to read consent searches like an open book. They know that innocent people, truly innocent people, often say yes just to avoid looking suspicious. So they exploit that. They count on it. And when you say yes, they don't think, wow, this person must be innocent. They think, great, now we have access. And then they start looking, often far beyond the scope of whatever reason they gave for knocking in the first place. That noise complaint turns into a 15-minute walk through your entire home. That welfare check turns into opening closet doors and peeking into bedrooms. Because once you say yes, your consent doesn't come with a timer. It doesn't come with a map. It comes with a badge and a mission. I want you to imagine a different scenario now. One that happens more often than you'd believe. It's late. You're in the kitchen making tea. Your partner is in the living room. Your teenager is in their bedroom with headphones on. There's a knock. Not aggressive this time, just a few quick raps. You go to the door, but don't open it. You say through the wood, "Who is it?" The response? "It's Officer Martinez. We're looking for someone. Can you open the door?" Now your heart is racing again. But this time, you remember what I'm telling you. You don't open the door. You keep it closed. You keep the chain on if you have one. And you say, "You can speak to me through the door. What do you need?" The officer shifts his weight. You can hear it in his voice. He's not used to this. Most people just open up. "We're looking for a male, about 6 feet, wearing a dark hoodie. He was seen running in this direction about 20 minutes ago. We just want to make sure he didn't come into your home." You haven't seen anyone. You know that. But here's the trap. The officer didn't ask you if you saw anyone. He asked you to open the door. Why? Because the moment you open it, he can look over your shoulder. He can listen for footsteps. He can ask to use your bathroom, which is another classic tactic. No one wants to say no to someone who needs a bathroom, but the second they step inside, the search has begun. So you keep the door closed. You say, "I haven't seen anyone. No one came in here. Thanks for checking." And then you stop talking. This is the hardest part for most people, the silence. The officer is still standing there. You can feel him waiting. He might ask another question. He might knock again. He might say, "Are you sure? The neighbor thought they saw someone go toward your backyard." But you hold. You say again, "I haven't seen anyone. Have a good night." And then you walk away from the door. Not rudely, not slamming it, just done. What happens next? In most cases, they leave because they have no legal right to stand there demanding entry. No warrant, no probable cause, no emergency. Just a hunch and a hope that you'll open up. And you didn't. You just built a wall. Let me pause here and address something that makes people uncomfortable. Some of you are thinking, but what if it's a real emergency? What if someone is hurt? What if they're looking for a missing child and I'm the last house they check? I hear you, and I'm not telling you to be unreasonable or cruel. There are genuine exigent circumstances where police can enter without a warrant if they hear screams, see smoke, witness violence in progress. That's different. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the routine knock. We just want to ask a few questions. Can we come in for a minute? Do you mind if we take a look around? These are fishing expeditions, and you are the fish. The officer on your doorstep does not have your best interests at heart. That's not an insult to police. That's just the reality of their job. They're looking for evidence of crime. That is their mandate. If you give them permission to look, they will look. And if they find something, even something small, even something you didn't know was there, even something a roommate left out, they will use it. I've watched body cam footage of encounters that started so casually. Officer says, "Hey, just a quick question. Mind if I step inside? It's cold out here." Resident says, "Oh yeah, sorry, come in." 5 minutes later, the officer sees a marijuana pipe on a shelf. Resident is arrested. The pipe wasn't even his. It was a guest's from a party 3 weeks ago. But possession doesn't care about your explanations at the door. It cares about what's in plain sight after you waived your rights. You want to know the real secret? The thing police hope you never figure out? They can't see through walls. Not really. All their power at your front door is borrowed from you. They have no authority to enter your home without a warrant unless you give it to them or unless there's a true emergency. That's it. That's the whole game. And yet, millions of Americans voluntarily forfeit that protection every single year because they don't know their rights, because they're afraid of looking suspicious, because they were raised to respect authority, because an officer smiled and asked nicely. Let me tell you about another tactic that will make your blood run cold. It's called knock and talk. It sounds friendly, almost neighborly, but it's a formal, trained police strategy designed to do one thing: get inside your home without a warrant. Officers are taught to approach, knock, engage you in conversation, and slowly, methodically try to gain consent to enter. They're trained to notice if you're nervous, if you glance behind you, if you step outside and close the door behind you. That's a classic sign that you're hiding something. They're trained to ask questions that seem innocent, but are actually building a case. How many people live here? Is that your car in the driveway? Have you lived here long? Every answer gives them more information. Every answer is a tiny brick in a wall they're building against you. And here's the part that will keep you up tonight. Even if you refuse consent, even if you keep the door closed and say nothing, officers will often remain outside your home for extended periods. They'll walk around, they'll look in windows if the blinds are open, they'll shine flashlights into your garage, they'll stand in your backyard if there's no fence, they'll talk to your neighbors, they'll run your license plate, they'll do everything they legally can to gather evidence from the outside. Because while they can't see through walls, they can absolutely see through windows. They can hear through open screens. They can smell what drifts out your door when you open it just 2 inches to speak to them. So what do you do about that? You control the environment. You keep blinds closed at night. You don't open the door wide. You step outside to speak to them and close the door behind you. That's actually a power move, because now you're on neutral ground. They can't see inside. You've taken away their lens. And if they try to push past you, that's a legal entry. That's a violation of your rights. You document everything. You get badge numbers. You call an attorney. I want to circle back to something I hinted at earlier. The biggest mistake people make isn't opening the door. It's talking. It's explaining. It's justifying. An officer asks, "Do you mind if we come in?" And the resident says, "Well, I don't know. My wife is sleeping and the house is a mess and I don't really have anything to hide, but I'm just not comfortable." Stop. Every extra word is a rope they can pull. The only correct answer is a calm, firm, "I don't consent to any searches." You don't owe them an explanation. You don't need to say why. You don't need to tell them you're tired or busy or scared. Just the words. That's it. And here's something even more powerful. You have the right to revoke consent at any time. If you made the mistake of letting them in, you can say, "I'm revoking my consent. You need to leave now." At that moment, they have to stop and leave, unless they already have probable cause to arrest you or seize evidence. Most people don't know that. They think once they say yes, it's yes forever. It's not. You can change your mind. The moment you do, anything they see after that point is tainted. Use that. Let me take you inside the mind of an officer for a minute. You need to understand how they think, because understanding their psychology is how you win. When an officer knocks on your door, they are operating from a position of control. They chose the time. They chose the place. They have backup nearby. They have a radio. They have a gun. You are in your pajamas, barefoot, half asleep, caught off guard. The power imbalance is enormous. And officers are trained to leverage that imbalance. They will stand slightly too close. They will let silences stretch too long. They will repeat questions. They will act confused when you say no, as if no is not a real option. They will say things like, "Why wouldn't you want to help us?" Or, "If you have nothing to hide, it's not a problem, right?" These are psychological tactics. They are designed to make you feel like the unreasonable one, like you're being paranoid, like you're the weird neighbor who won't even talk to the police. And it works. It works on smart people. It works on lawyers. It works on people who know better, because in the moment, with adrenaline flooding your system, your brain goes offline. Your primal, socialized, people-pleasing brain takes over. And that brain wants to be liked. It wants to cooperate. It wants the scary person at the door to go away feeling happy with you. But you have to override that. You have to decide right now, tonight, before anyone ever knocks, what you will do. Because you cannot make this decision in the moment. You will get it wrong. I promise you. The pressure is too high, the fear too real, the officer too practiced. You have to rehearse it. Say the words out loud to yourself in the mirror. "I don't consent to any searches. If you need to come inside, get a warrant." Say it until it feels natural. Say it until it becomes your automatic response. One more scenario, and this one is ugly. This one is the one people email me about years later, still traumatized. It's 3 a.m. There's banging on your door like someone is trying to break it down. "Police, open the door." You stumble out of bed, your hands are shaking. You look through the peephole and see multiple officers, weapons not drawn, but hands near them. You open the door. Maybe you're scared they'll break it down if you don't. Before you can say a word, 2 officers step inside past you. They don't ask, they just come in. One says, "We received a 911 hang-up from this address. We need to check the residence." Here's the truth. That's likely illegal. A 911 hang-up does not automatically give them the right to enter your home without a warrant. But what do? You can't physically stop them. If you try, you'll be arrested for obstruction or worse. So you document. You say, loudly and clearly, "I do not consent to this entry. You do not have a warrant. You do not have my permission." You say it so your phone recording picks it up. You say it for the body cameras. You establish clearly that this entry is against your will. That matters later. That matters in court. Then you stay calm. You let them do their cursory check for an injured person or an intruder. When they find nothing, they will leave. And then you call an attorney and file a complaint. But here's the important part. Even in that terrifying moment, you still have rights. You still have a voice. You still can say no, even as they walk past you. I need you to understand something fundamental. The Fourth Amendment is not a self-executing shield. It only protects you if you assert it. If you stand there silently while officers search your home, courts will assume you consented. If you open the door wide and step aside, courts will assume you consented. If you say, I guess, or sure, or go ahead, you have consented. The law does not require officers to remind you that you can say no. In fact, the Supreme Court has ruled that they don't have to tell you at all. They can simply ask, and your answer, even a hesitant, confused answer, counts as consent. This is why I'm so passionate about this. This is why I've spent years researching police encounters, reading case law, watching body cam footage, interviewing people who lost everything because they opened their door 2 inches too wide. You are not being paranoid. You are not being difficult. You are protecting the one place in the world where you are supposed to be safe. Your home, your castle, your walls. And those walls, they only work if you keep them closed. So let me ask you one more time. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever opened your door to police and felt that sick feeling in your stomach? The one that says something is wrong, but you can't quite name it. Have you ever let an officer inside because you didn't know you could say no? I want you to tell me in the comments. Not because I'm collecting stories, but because someone else needs to read your experience. Someone else needs to know they're not alone. Someone else needs to see that this doesn't just happen on the news. It happens on quiet streets in nice neighborhoods to people who never thought it would be them. And now you know. Now you have the words. Now you have the wall. The next time those red and blue lights flash outside your window, the next time that knock comes too loud and too late, you will not panic. You will not explain. You will not open. You will stand behind your closed door, heart pounding but voice steady, and you will say exactly what needs to be said. Nothing more, nothing less. Because the only thing worse than the knock is realizing after they've walked through your home that you handed them the key yourself. Don't be that person. Be the closed door. Be the silence. Be the wall they cannot see through.